From the country that brought you Rami Malek and Hoda Kotb,
It's a conundrum.
with Sam Taha.
Kif, we have a conundrum.
Oh, hello. Hi. Welcome to another episode of the Conundrum podcast that is officially the longest running podcast with the least amount of episodes. This podcast started in 2014, and as of 2022, I have exactly 25 episodes. This is the 25th episode, so I've done 24 episodes in 8 years. It's about 4 a year with a couple of years of procrastinating. It was fun. But I'm not gonna give up. I'm just gonna keep trying to make this podcast that no one listens to a thing, which is, we talked about this before. I don't care who's listening. This is for me. I'm putting out some stuff. But this time, I think I've figured a way to reimagine this podcast once again. I found myself a gimmick. You know, like how all the podcasts needs a gimmick right now. I found myself a gimmick that I like, that I want to do. Which is, I have OCD. I am clumsy. I turn everything into a conundrum. Really, that's why this name of the podcast has always been with me from the beginning, because that was the first nickname I got when I moved here. People were like, "You're such a conundrum. We just asked you to open the lights." Meanwhile, Batatis, my dog, is right here whining for no reason whatsoever. I don't know what it is. Let's take a look. Hi, Batatis. He's fine. He's giving me the Sphinx. This will be edited, I guess. But either ways. So, I have OCD. I love rituals. I have ways, like the way I'm very obsessed with steps. Like, what do people do? Like, okay, you wake up in the morning and you write for 3 pages. Is that exactly as soon as you wake up? Do you like go to the bathroom? What if someone called you? What if someone interrupted you? This is the life that these are the things that I always think about all the time. I'm always thinking about, oh, okay, how can this get fucked up? My routines are not the same. This is incoherent, by the way. I can't ramble. Like, I'm not. That's why I need structure in a podcast, because I'm not a rambler. Like, when I'm speaking to myself, I just like get lost in. I don't know what I was talking about. There's no feedback here. No one is asking me questions. So I'm all over the place. I'm not sure if this is going to be an hour podcast from now on, because I don't know. I'm also starting another podcast with Suwan and I think we're going to call it Foreigner Passing. We're not sure. But it's a podcast that we're starting, and I like it's fun. We're doing it here at my place. But also, I'm editing that one. So I'll be editing an hour podcast weekly, and then this podcast again, which I'm for some reason recording on 2 cameras. Who cares? I'm too quick. My brain is all over the place, and people can't keep up, which explains the gigantic bomb that I had this Saturday. It was so much fun. Did you see the mushroom clouds? Like, it was such a huge bomb that I'm assuming the UN got involved in this to be like, are you guys okay? Is this Ukraine related? Speaking of which, I'm also sick. There might be a surgery in my future. Yay! I'm so excited. In 2007, I had some sort of like an ulcer-y thing, and I couldn't eat any solid foods. And I was 240 pounds back then, so tell a fat man that they can only drink soup for 2 weeks and then lost weight. Came out of it, lost about 40 pounds or something. And that's the beginning of my anorexia, because I started like looking at how good I look after losing this weight. The love handles were gone. My butt was less spherical. And you look in the mirror and you just can't believe it. Like, after what? It was 24 or 23 back then. After 24 years of looking at yourself in the mirror and feeling like a piece of shit and nothing fits. If you want to find a shirt you like, it has to be a certain size, or else you're stuck with like shitty logos on fat people shirts. I don't know why they don't care about fat people fashion. But that's a complaint from the 90s. So you lose weight. And then suddenly I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I look so great. Like I can never go back to this fat blob that I was. So I developed anorexia. For years, I would just like eat every Wednesday. Like I'm literally skipping days because I don't want to lose weight again. And I would weigh myself every day. It's like, oh my God, I gained half a kilo today. There is no more water for me. Stuff like that. Anyways, got sick, lost weight. Everything was fine. Sickness went away. And I was like, okay, great. Now I'm thin. Life goes on. Of course, I gained weight and lost weight all over the time. It's fine. But eventually, fast forward to 2022, where this is day 3 of me not being able to swallow any solid foods. Whatever goes down comes back up again. So I'm only on liquids right now, which is fun. I guess I'm gonna lose weight. So I need to go to a doctor. And it's probably gonna be a surgery to, I don't know, ulcer stuff? I'm not sure. I don't have the money. I don't have, I have insurance, but I'm sure they're not gonna cover this. They're not gonna be like, oh, this is a pre-existing condition. You've only had insurance with us for 7 months, so we're not gonna cover you. And I also don't have time. Like, this is the one time of this year where I am like busy and going on the road and shit. And there is no now, like, okay, now that I'm finally getting out there, let me take a couple of weeks off to do a surgery. So I am throwing all of my male denial at this and hoping that there will be some sort of a miracle. It will go away like all the other things did. I don't know. It's this age right now where you're like, okay, this is it. This is probably there is a cancer tumor in my stomach that is blocking all the food from going down and it's only allowing liquids. That's the only logical explanation. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be solved by a pill. No one is going to give me a pill and tell me like, hey, go meditate on this for 3 minutes and then you'll be back to normal eating your fries and fried stuff. Which also I'm trying to. That's the weird part. It's like this happened exactly about 4 or 5 days after I decided to become healthy. What is the point, body? Like I treat you like shit, and you still feel fine. And then when I give you the respect you deserve, you're like, oh nope, we're shutting down. We're not used to this. We're not used to this non-abuse. Where is the fried stuff and the alcohol and the weed and the candy and. Ugh. Anyways, this is longer than I expected. I wanted to make like a 5-minute video and talk about how this podcast is gonna come back. I gotta keep fighting. Just never give up, even after almost 8 years now of this podcast. Maybe this year I'll get it to 50. No, there's not a lot time left in this year, but maybe this try we'll get about 50 episodes in. So we'll see. But I'm very excited because I again, like I said before, the gimmick I found I like a lot, which is really just asking people about their rituals. It's part of the. It's funny how like I'm still trying to tie this to Conundrum because I like the name so much, and it's like no one else has this name. I don't know. I'm not sure about this because if I Google it, I'll find a couple of other conundrums, but they have like an orthodox conundrum and a weird conundrum, and mine is just like life is a fucking conundrum, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I'll interview some people so that they can help me talk about how they start their day, for example. That has always been a thing that I'm like very curious about. How do people start their days? Because like throughout my life, my day started with get up, have some coffee / Pepsi. Yep, I was that bad. And then smoke cigarettes, vape nicotine, whatever. After I moved here to America, and especially after this lovely year of me smoking marijuana, my daily routine involved getting up, smoking weed, masturbating, then sleeping again. That's not a good way to start the day. That's how we can be productive that way. So yeah, back to whatever I was saying. Podcast is coming back. I'm going to be interviewing people about their morning rituals and rituals in general. I'm also interested in stuff like, okay, so if you're outside and you're hungry, like what do you do? Like stuff like that, like mundane stuff that we do every day but I'm very interested in people's way of thinking and decisions. And if they're like, oh, I'm disciplined, and like I have a friend of mine who her morning routine is that she wakes up and then she sits down and writes 3 pages of the morning pages, and then she finishes that and meditates. If I do that, I'll be like, I think like the top score screen will come and be like, you finished the game, you did it, that's it. There is nothing else better than this. I don't know if that makes any sense. But it feels like if I do that, I'll be like, yeah, no, I won at life. There's no point in living anymore. We are done. We finished this game. We defeated the final boss, which is waking up and being productive and healthy and shit. Like on good days, I would wake up and within an hour I'd be hiking outside. But now it's like, I mean, and when I say now, I'm like in the past. This last week has been better. I've been listening to Andrew Huberman on the Huberman Lab. I don't know if you ghosts are familiar with this, but he's like a scientific guy from Stanford, and he has a podcast where he's literally just throwing science at stuff. Excuse me. So I like his podcast a lot because I'm science obsessed. It's like science became the new god to me. It's like, okay, according to science, then it must be true, which is not true because we've seen COVID and the pandemic, and we've seen how science has been disappointing. So I'm going back to Jesus again. This is really where I should find guidance. No. Anyway, so Andrew Huberman, listening to him, he was talking. Yeah, he had this episode where he's talking about like how to start your day perfectly, like in a scientific peer-reviewed way. You wake up at 6:30 in the morning. That means that the lowest temperature that your body has experienced should be 2 hours before you wake up, which means that 6 hours after that, that's the most productive mental capacity time where you're like efficient and your IQ is high or whatever. So that happens around 9 if you wake up at 4. I think I did the math right. Stuff like that. Stuff like how people, like, what's the best way, according to science, to start the day. And I was like, when I was testing the idea out and talking to other people, friends, and just interviewing them and be like, hey, so how do you start your day? Like, tell me about a ritual that you have that you want to talk about. And the first guy that talked to me was a friend of mine called Ross. And he went into this, there is this Buddhist monk, Zen-y person who has this way of starting his day. And he wakes up in the morning and he thinks about death. And it makes sense because we forget that we're going to die. So it's like nice to remind yourself that you're going to die so that you can live this day as if it's your last day. Don't you know these ones? It's the old cheesy stuff about it's your last day. Live your last day. Live every day as if it's your last day. So this is kind of that. And that made sense from an unscientific view. Like, there's no peer-reviewed paper about if you wake up and think about death in the morning, you're going to have a more productive day. So it's in a way, like, even if I bring the best, or this is according to science, and by the book, this is what you should do when you wake up, that's also not 100% proof. Like, this is not, if this is the way it is, then everyone else should follow that way. It's not like that anymore. Or at least I am maturing enough for me to see that it's not like that anymore. Because you kind of start, I don't know, this is all over the place as usual. But when I was religious, like, that higher power was God. Yeah, God knows, just leave it to God, blah, blah, blah. And science is supporting it, but it wasn't, like, God was the main character in this. And as I became agnostic, science became the main character in this. You become like, yeah, okay, we're the vice president now. You're the president. Look at you. Just don't let us down. But it did. In 2020, 2021, 2022. I'm in general starting to be against mainstream. Like, I don't know if this is a side of aging, but mainstream has been a lot of pop culture stuff that is repeated that has nothing to do with reality. So science, as we became disappointed with science and saw how it's all personal, people are just running behind their careers like any other fucking job. This scientist is trying to say the right thing so that he can get a grant and so he can publish his paper. It's careers. No one is doing science like for humans. It's just all careers, which makes sense. I don't know why we thought they're gonna be knights in shining armor. They're humans. I don't know what we expected, or what I expected. I don't know why I strung all the ghosts with me on this. This is what I'm gonna call my listeners. I'm just gonna call the people who hypothetically listen to this podcast by mistake. I'm gonna call you ghosts, jinn, al-afarit. Ooh, afarit. I like this. Afarit. So afrit is a jinn in Arabic. No one can say afrit. So I'm just gonna keep saying afrit myself. To no one. I should edit this at some point. We'll see. What was I talking about? Starting the days, morning, new podcast. The podcast is coming back. I said too much. I'm gonna aim to have this. I wanna put a deadline. It's just Wednesday at noon every week, so that I follow that deadline and it becomes another free job that I'm doing. But it's a necessary job because I'm seeing right now that every comic has at least 2 podcasts. Aside from all the videos you're posting on TikTok and Instagram, it's such a hard job these days. And I guess I have to do more work. Every time I think I've worked hard enough, I realize that, oh no, you haven't even scratched the surface, you fucking loser, lazy fuck. So yeah. Also, you can notice how my negative self-talk has slipped away in this past time. I actually can't even remember what was the last podcast. What was my mental state back then? What was I doing? I think I was still struggling with OCD more than now. There is some OCD struggle still, but it's at a 2 or a 1. It's a background noise in my life. I don't think I'm at a better place. Overall I'm better, but I have declined a bit in the past couple of months. That's why I'm trying to kind of get back on the horse, catch up to that wagon. I went on a year from, I think, during the pandemic. There was a year where I became completely sober. No weed, no alcohol, just my regular nicotine and shit ton of potatoes. And then by 15th of July of last year, I was like, I'll take a break. I'll just take one day where I smoke and drink and have fun and then go back to sobriety. Did not happen. Here we are 13 months later, and this is where I'm just okay, no more weed, no more alcohol. And I'm not I don't do sober. I'm not gonna go to AAs, blah, blah, blah. I don't want it at home. If it's outside, I'll drink something, I'll smoke something, but it shouldn't be at my place. Because anything that is at my place, and we learned that lesson from the days of the candy, something fell, so it's fine. We learned that from our fat days of candy. If there's candy home, it's just gonna be done. Eventually. I'm just gonna go over it and eventually finish it. And that's the situation. So that's why I'm I don't want this shit in my home. It should be outside. I'll get to it when I get to it. So that's also part of what I'm doing too, is sobering up a bit and trying to get on the road. I'm going to San Francisco in September, and I have been trying to pad these bookings as much as possible, but cold submissions suck. They fucking suck. I've never gotten a job from cold submission. Every single time I get a job, it was because somebody knew me, somebody moved my resume / my whatever on the top of the line, and that's how I got seen. But aside from that, that doesn't happen. I can keep rambling more, but let's try to stick this podcast to about 20 minutes. Because who's listening? Hi, Afarit. That's not the point. I'm just gonna keep this podcast short for now. I'll be back next week with hopefully a guest, which means that I need to string and find a guest very quickly. But we will see that. That's it. That was a good start. I like this standing desk stuff and 2 cameras if I want to switch. But that's it. I will be back next week. Ooh, let me do this thing where I tell you about my dates. I have dates. Oh my God, look at me. What are my dates? Dates. Oh, you can go to samtaha.com/shows to see my dates. Okay, I will be in Burbank Flappers today and tomorrow for the Burbank Comedy Festival. I'll also be in Hollywood at the Fourth Wall on the 20th of August. And then my big San Francisco trip or Bay Area trip is coming up in September. I will be in Carmel by the Sea at the Folktale Winery on the 8th of September. Orienda Theater in Orienda on the 9th. Marine Civic Center at San Rafael on the 10th. And the Crow's Nest in Santa Cruz on the 11th. I did not want to perform on 9/11, ha ha ha, but here it is. It's a festival, so I'm not gonna make any 9/11 jokes. That's it, I think. Thank you for listening. If you are one of the Afarit who are listening right now, I will be back, and that's it. Bye.